If you are not planning your business, you're actually planning your business to fail or something like that. And I knew I was going to mess that up in the beginning of this particular session. But a business without a plan, well, it's a business planning to fail. And this is one of the big things that I've come across with so many companies that I actually work with. I always start out by asking them, well, let's start out with the plan. Tell me your business plan. And, well, like myself, many, many years ago, out comes this 60 or 200-page document. And ultimately, when I start going through it, it is fantastic. But does it ever get used? You see, we spend all this time creating the business plan, but do we actually use it? And this is where so many businesses actually tend to, I don't want to use the word fail, but tend to go off on different directions. They start out with this idea, they start out with this very strong concept, and then as the months start going deeper, their business looks very different to the original idea. And the reason why is, well, they haven't stuck to the plan. They haven't stuck to the business plan. So the question I want to ask you is, if you do have a business plan, do you use it? It's a simple yes or no. Do you actually use it? And if you do, that is absolutely fantastic. You've managed to get it to a point where it's becoming part of your business. And that is going to help you to start moving forward. If your answer is no, well, like myself, my answer was no when I first started, and many companies out there, well, look at your business. Is it on that same path? And if it is, how much energy are you putting into it to keep it back there all the time? I want to share with you an extremely simple method. And it's a method that we refer to as a one-page business plan. Yes, you heard me correctly. A business plan that's going to be drafted on a single page. Now, you might be thinking, that's impossible. We need to have all of the SWOT analysis. We need to have all our competitors' details. We need to have a very clear understanding. Yes, you do need to have all that information. But here's the truth of it. When you're running in your business, well, you already know who your competitors are. Your SWOT analysis is already in function. You already are working with that. And when you look at your day-to-day, everything is kind of just happening. But what we need to do is when things become tough, when suddenly something happens in the industry, we need somewhere to go to keep us in that alignment. But here's the big part. Many business plans are only shared with executives and leadership. They're never shared with the employees. Why is that, you might ask? Well, there's a lot of very confidential information that gets put into these business plans. And that's where I go, this is where we're leading to a potential loss in clarity in the business. Because the leadership and the executive team have a clear understanding of where we're going, but the people on the ground, they can get a little bit confused. You see, ambiguity is something that is so big. So how do we remove that ambiguity of the information shared from leadership through to the people on the ground? Well, that's how we can do it with a one-page business plan. Something that does not have all the confidential information included, but it's something that can be shared right through the organization. And when it's shared throughout the organization, everybody is on, wait for it, the same page. That's why we call it a one-page business plan, to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we know exactly where we're heading towards. So, if you are interested in creating a one-page business plan for your business, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Jump onto my website at stuarthyslop.com. And remember, go to the top corner. You'll see there's a little button that says book a free clarity call, and I will help you through this particular process. Now, you might be saying, one-page business plan. Is it something that anybody can use? Well, the simple answer is yes. Through our dealings With small entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs by themselves, it works like a charm. Even large organizations. These organizations that are multi-global, multiple offices in multiple countries with multiple staff. They've even used this exact formula and they've shared it with their staff. And one of the most amazing things that comes out of it is it starts to build this culture of the company knowing exactly where it's going. So, I'm sure I've perked your interest on the one-page business plan. Let me give you the quick 411, the basic breakdown of what to include in your one-page business plan. And it's something that you can actually draft and build right now as you're listening to me through the session. So, there's 3 parts to it. Part number 1 needs to be the lighthouse. It is the goal, the outcome. It's where we're going towards. Now, this is typically created by the entrepreneurial CEO, the person that has the vision for the future. They know exactly where the company is going and they can identify that goal. Now, that goal needs to be clarity. Can't be a 20-page document. It needs to break down the productivity of the business, the growth of the business, or the profitability of the business, so that everybody knows exactly where we're heading towards. Now, that could be called the heading of the document, but that is part 1. Only one goal. We don't want to have multiple goals. What is that one goal for the business that if you achieve it, the business becomes successful and has extraordinary results across all parts of it? So that's the first part, is creating that goal, that outcome, that lighthouse that we're heading towards. Without that, everything goes awry. So that's step number 1. Find your goal. Write it down. Make sure that everybody, and when I mean everybody is aware of it. Because that will then say, now I know where the company is heading towards, because I can head my goals to be in alignment and not take the company off on a tangent. So number 1, create that business goal. Have the clarity. And again, if you need help with that, don't hesitate. Reach out to me. It's the most important part of this exercise, is setting up that goal. Second, well, now that you've got the goal, you're thinking this is fantastic. Now we need to achieve that goal. Now, in order to achieve that goal, we need to highlight some priorities. These are the priorities that the company is going to focus on. So I'm going to use this as an example. If the focus and the goal of the business is to improve productivity, we want to increase productivity. Well, when we look at that productivity, there will be selected priorities that needs to be addressed. Priorities like, well, maybe we need to do some learning and development. We need to teach knowledge and skills to our staff and our clients so that they are fully aware of how to do certain elements. It might even be down to the point of, well, we have a priority that in order to achieve that productivity, we need to have a look at our systems or our tools because they're actually hampering our productivity. You see, when you can identify those priorities, and this is typically the task of an operations manager, a person that can see this is what needs to happen in order for us to achieve that particular goal. So we go down to the next section, and those are your priorities. They need to be big and bold. You can use the 80-20 principle here, where those big rocks, those 20%, they'll actually achieve 80% of the goal. So we need to identify them. And here, we don't want to have 100 priorities. What we typically do within our coaching is if a client comes to us with 10 priorities, we normally say, let's break it down to a maximum of 3. And the reason why we go with 3 is so that we're not overloading ourselves to do too much. 3 in some cases could be too much, but we want to go to a maximum of 3 priorities. Now, the beauty here is once you've ticked off one of those priorities and you've achieved it, well, you can always go to your reserve and bring in another priority. And as it goes, But how do we select those priorities? Well, we normally go through what we refer to as a bit of a brain dump. Let's have a look at these priorities. Let's identify them, and then let's put them, wait for it, into order of priority. How do we do that? Well, we ask ourselves this very straightforward coaching question. If I could only do one of those priorities, that's it. I'm only allowed to do one. The law states in this globe that we're only allowed to do one priority. Which one would it be? Now, in the beginning, that becomes challenging because they all seem important. But when you ask that question, if I can only do one, which one would be the most important? You'll then start to identify it. And then you can ask yourself the follow-up question. Well, if I complete priority one and I earn the right to do a second, which one would that be? And you can go through this process to put them into an order of priority. Now, once you've got your order of priority, pick the top three, and those are the priorities that we're actually going to start to focus on. So that's the second part of our one-page business plan. So at the top, we've got our goal. It's the clarity. It's the vision from our entrepreneurial CEO, if we want to call it, of where we're going. The next level are those priorities. The operations understands that if we achieve all three of them, we're probably going to achieve our goals. So that's very important. We then get down to the third section. And this will be the lower third of the actual page. And in many cases, it's actually the bottom half of the page. This is where we need to look at actions. Because so too often when I read through a company's business plan, it's all concepts, priorities, ideas. And the biggest failure is there's no actions. You see, we need to make sure that on our business plan, we've actually got some clear actions that we can take. And that goes into the third section. We refer to that as strategies or steps. Now, why is the difference? Well, strategies, there could be a variety of strategies that you need to adopt in order to achieve that priority. But on the other side, the steps, it could be that, well, in order to do this, I need to do step 1, then step 2, step 3, and X, Y, and Z. So you've either got strategies, which could be a mix, or steps in order to achieve that priority. Remember, the goal is already set. The priorities are there so that if you achieve that priority, you're on track to achieving that goal. And those priorities just needs to be broken down into actions. That is the key to this one-page business plan, is actually starting to build what we refer to as having a relationship with the actual goal. We know that these are the actions that are focused to this particular priority, and that particular priority is helping us achieve that particular goal. So, the actual one-page business plan is as simple as that. It's a document that has high level of clarity. Any person can pick it up. They can see the goals. They know exactly what the priorities are for the company. But more importantly, they know the actions or steps, strategies that needs to be taken in order for it to be achieved. You see, anybody can pick up that document and look at it and go, am I doing the right actions, yes or no, to help us to achieve the outcome of that goal, yes or no? Well, that document allows you to be very transparent, but have absolute clarity in order to what to achieve. So this one-page business plan can take care of that 600-page business plan that's been formulated and created with all these little details. I typically say to my clients, do not throw that big business plan away, because that becomes almost your reference manual. You've done some deep research, and at times you'll think, well, I've got to do this action, but do I know how to do that action? Well, that business plan that you created could actually open up and explain it a bit deeper. But ultimately, use it as a reference to make sure that the one-page business plan is on track. So this one-page business plan is actually so easy. And the great thing is it can be shared with anybody. To set it up, is an easy process. And if you need the assistance to set it up, well, don't hesitate. Get in touch with me. Jump onto my website, stuarthyslop.com. Jump onto that little button at the top right that says book a free clarity call. And it is a free clarity call. It is no obligations. It is there to help you to get that business plan. I can assure you, if you're running your business without a plan, you're going to be lost. You're going to start going off in multiple different directions. As soon as you have that business plan and you wake up one day going, what is it that my business actually does? You can pull up that one-page business plan and go, yes, that's exactly, and you know the actions to actually take. So the simple structure at the top, it's a clarity goal. It's that lighthouse that you're heading towards. It's got to be crystal clear, broken into maybe the components of what does the growth look like? What does productivity look like? What does the profitability look like of the business? It then goes down to that next level, which are the priorities, and try and keep those to a maximum of 3 priorities. Those priorities needs to be the big rocks. And you know that if you achieve that priority, you're actually getting yourself one step closer or actually achieving the actual goal. And then you take each one of those priorities and you break it down. We're looking for actions. So whether it is a strategy that you're going to be using or it's steps that you're going to be using. And this is what actually goes down to the people on the ground running the business. They're the ones doing the action. And even if you're the CEO that does the actions, you know what to do. It's this document that really gives you the guidance to go anywhere with your business and to be successful. You see, when we start going off track, when we start taking our business and going down these side roads, ultimately our business becomes quite complicated and it actually starts to slow down. We want to make sure we put maximum effort into those activities to achieve those priorities, to be on track to tick that particular goal. Wouldn't you love to do that for your business? I know that you're wanting to do that for your business. So set yourself up some time to build your one-page business plan. It is as simple as what I've shared with you, and you can actually do it. So a closing quote for this particular session: clarity beats complexity every time. Clarity beats complexity every time. And this one-page business plan, well, it's just clarity. There is no complexity to it. It is very straightforward and simple. So in the session, I want you to just do one thing, whether it's building your one-page business plan or looking at your priorities or identifying your goal or identifying those actions, those steps and strategies to achieve that priority. Just take some time, schedule it and do it. Because remember, learning, it only creates the awareness, but it's actually the actions that you take that will create the results. So I look forward to seeing you in the next session, which I'm quite excited about. So do look out for it.
You've been listening to The One Thing Guy. Remember, when you focus on what matters most, everything changes. See you next time.